So what does Russia's war mean for space? Even further, what does it mean for the International Space Station? Let's see.
This is the International Space Station. It orbits the Earth 16 times a day, 250 miles up. It's where astronauts from more than a dozen different countries have been living since the year 2000, mostly Russians and Americans. And for the last 10 years, basically the only way anyone got up or down was in a Russian Soyuz. At least in space, countries like Russia and the US depend on each other.
I still don't like that. I don't. I would feel so uneasy if I was an American getting on that ship. Like that ship, yeah. That would bother me.
But when Russia invaded Ukraine, the US levied major sanctions in response, including some meant to
degrade their aerospace industry, including their space program.
The head of Russia's space agency responded that perhaps they'd crashed the space station. They even made a fake video showing Russians leaving an American astronaut, and then detaching the Russian segment.
See what I mean?
Relations between the West and Russia are the tensest they've been since the International Space Station has been in operation. So, what happens to it now? During the Cold War, the US and the Soviet Union were in the space race. Who could develop the technology to reach the stars first? But space is also where the two countries have tried to get along. After the Soviet Union launched the first satellite and put the first man into space, but before the US landed on the moon, there was actually talk of going to the moon together.
The cold reaches of the universe must not become the new arena of an even colder war.
It actually ended up being something discussed in Congress. Of course, that was where it then fizzled out, but I think it was important that these discussions took place.
It led to the two countries eventually collaborating on a compatible docking system, even joined spacecrafts in 1975.
The handshake was this symbol of we see each other as equal partners in this. We recognize and respect each other, at least here in space.
Soon after, the US would begin its space shuttle program, bringing astronauts and satellites.
Could you trust it even back then, though? Come on, we all know. Come on now. You know somebody who's probably shaking your hand but had an ulterior motive. They were playing the long game, thus playing you at the time, using you. See, these are the things you have to think about now, especially while we're in the position we are in with them. You have to go back and question everything that we did together or so-called had an agreement with. Yeah, I don't trust nothing.
Into space in reusable shuttles, and the Soviet Union would create the first modular space station, Mir, where cosmonauts could live long-term. At the same time, the US, Japan, Canada, and several European countries began planning to build their own space station together. But after the Soviet Union fell and the Cold War ended, the US and Russia began peace talks. One of the first things they agreed to was collaboration in space. Soon, US shuttle astronauts docked with Mir, Russian cosmonauts joined shuttle launches,
and liftoff of Discovery on a bold new era of spaceflight between the United States and Russia.
And Russia was added to the joint station plans.
Instead of building weapons in space, Russian scientists will help us to build the International Space Station.
The first parts of the space station went up in 1998. It was designed to be collaborative and interdependent. It's made up of these individual modules, some controlled by Russia, some controlled by the US, along with several other countries. The Russian side controls the navigation, and the US provides most of the electricity.
That was a purposeful design to sort of work in international cooperation into the actual technicalities of the space station.
They've conducted thousands of experiments to learn about diseases, climate change on Earth, and, importantly for space exploration, whether humans can actually live in space long term. How does food grow or a human body change?
The space station is sort of this major stepping stone for more exploration of space, going back to the moon, onto Mars. It's to learn about human survival in space.
And international cooperation in space has largely worked out really well. The US even retired its shuttle program and became completely reliant on Russia's Soyuz rockets to reach the space station. But then...
Russian tanks, choppers, and troops.
Vladimir Putin moves to annex Crimea.
In 2014, Russia invaded and annexed Crimea from Ukraine, and the US imposed harsh sanctions. Just like he would again years later, the head of Russia's Roscosmos threatened to pull Soyuz access, suggesting that the US should get to the space station on a trampoline. But the two countries weren't serious about bringing the conflict on Earth to the space station.
Nah, fam, that's disrespectful, bro. I don't like your tone. Check your tone when you talk to me. I don't like, you said what?
Suggesting that the US should get to the space station on a trampoline. But the two countries weren't serious about bringing the conflict on Earth to the space station. At least the head of NASA then wasn't worried about the tweets.
President Obama and President Putin sort of put a bubble around the International Space Station, and we continued the space diplomatic relationship. That says something about the value of that bilateral relationship.
Oh my God.
The military has escalated its attacks on civilians. He believes
we are too trustworthy. That's all I'm saying. We too trustworthy. Yeah. Would y'all feel comfortable after that statement was made to feel like, oh, it's just the bubble around the International Space Station. It's just the bubble. I'm good. They'd never do nothing to us. Okay, yeah, all right.
the military has escalated its attacks on civilians. He believes Russia is committing war crimes.
He is a war criminal.
Today, the diplomatic relationship between the US and Russia is at the lowest point since the Cold War. But the space relationship between them remains fairly untouched. The Russians didn't leave the US astronaut behind and brought him back to Earth in a Soyuz.
Touchdown.
I never perceived those tweets as anything to take seriously. I just had too much confidence in our cooperation to date.
They even sent a new crew of cosmonauts to the space station.
People have problem on Earth, on orbit. We are one crew.
For now, the space station continues to run, mostly insulated from the geopolitical problems on Earth, just as it was designed. Emphasis on for now. The truth is, the space station is old. It was only designed to last until 2015. And while the countries have agreed to continue operations several times, right now, that agreement only goes until 2024. The US wants to extend until 2030. Russia has yet to sign on. But even if they do, the two countries have different plans in space in the future. Private companies are planning to build their own space stations in the coming decade. NASA wants to depend on those. They're focused on developing the Artemis program, going back to the moon, establishing a presence there, and eventually traveling to Mars in collaboration with other countries, with two notable exceptions. Russia is currently planning and building its own space station. So is China, who plans to finish their station already in orbit this year. They're also planning a mission to the moon.
I think we're still going to see, we must see international cooperation in space, but the question is just which countries will cooperate with which other countries.
As for the International Space Station, if Russia doesn't participate after 2024, things they currently control, like navigation, could be designed on the US side, likely with the help of private companies like SpaceX. SpaceX is already how many astronauts get to the space station. Their first mission in 2020 ended the dependence on Russia's Soyuz.
The trampoline is working.
That's right.
Yeah, it's an inside joke. Inside joke, yeah.
The International Space Station is really one of the best examples in history of human cooperation. It can represent the best of humanity.
The war in Ukraine may hasten the end of the space station, but that end was already planned. What it really threatens is the future of these countries finding common ground in space.
My hope is that these type of connections can be maintained and serve as a path forward to try to find that common ground that we need so desperately to find peace.
So let me get this straight, right? Russia and United States, the last common ground we have is the International Space Station, but Russia doesn't want to extend the contract agreement that we have. That's interesting and telling, by the way. So listen, this video has come across my desk I don't know how many times, and I'm trying to figure out, is it a sign? Is there something they're trying to tell me? I don't know, but I guess we have to watch this video. This is risking death in the name of natural Viagra. I don't know. I have no idea why.
This man is hunting for an aphrodisiac that some people have called a natural Viagra. It only forms at high altitudes, like here in the Himalayas. One misstep and the drop is 15,000 feet. People across South Asia have taken Shilajit for centuries to improve libido and to treat infertility.
शिलाजीत की जो आज तक मेजर मार्केटिंग हुई है वो एज ए टेस्टोस्टेरोन बूस्टर हुई है.
Now, people are paying hundreds of dollars to get their hands on it. But while it's soaring in popularity around the world, so are the fakes.
लोग तो कभी-कभी ऐसे लोगों को ठगा लेते हैं कि शिलाजीत है ये है वो, कोई लोग नकली भी बेचते.
So that is what everybody's going crazy over there. That's what's keeping your man at full salute. That's what's going on. So oysters don't do it. Other natural aphrodisiacs don't do it. It's this stuff.
So is Shilajit really a miracle product? And is the risk of finding it worth the hype?
I mean, yeah.
The valley of Padar is one of the most remote regions in Jammu and Kashmir. And Manohar Lal is the only one in his small village who dares to harvest Shilajit.
हमारे गांव का कोई बंदा इस पहाड़ी में जाना नहीं चाहता, बोले ये डेंजरस काम है.
Today, he's heading out with his son Lakshmi and their friend.
बड़ा डेंजरस वाला रास्ता था, डर तो लग ही जाता है.
I mean, 2 days is a long time. Don't let my facial expressions fool y'all. If ever I need it one day, then 2 days is worth it. It's worth it. Climbing that mountain is worth it for that. Yeah.
जंगलों में तो भालू भी होता है, रीछ भी होता है. वो थोड़ा देख के जाना पड़ता है.
Now Manohar is on his own. He uses nothing but his own body for support. It's mind over matter, walking on the edge at 12,000 feet.
डेंजर से आस्ते-आस्ते से जाना पड़ता, देख के जाना पड़ता है. अगर कहीं फिसल गए तो मर भी सकते हैं, गिर जाते हैं.
Finally, he reaches the Black Shilajit rocks.
Bro, am I tripping? He don't even have on hiking boots. It looks like he got on a pair of penny loafers, fam. What are those? Those are not even slip resistant, probably. Are those slip resistant? What are those? Man, come on, man. Those look like the Easter Sunday specials right there he got on. Come on, bro. What are you doing?
After collecting about 500 grams, they call it a day and set up a camp to stay overnight.
Everybody is trying to be healthy and eat good food. तो उसकी वजह से लोग चाहते तो हैं उनको शिलाजीत मिले.
Shilajit has its roots in Ayurvedic medicine, which originated in India over 3,000 years ago. It's a traditional healing system that uses natural products, and ancient texts talk about its healing powers. But Shilajit can't be eaten in its raw form, so Manohar first cooks the rocks. They dissolve in boiling water. He filters out sand and other impurities.
हम इसकी फिल्ट्रेशन करते हैं अराउंड कई बार 2 बार, कई बार 4 या 5 बार भी करनी पड़ती है जब तक हमारे को दिखे कि कोई भी impurities जो हैं उसमें नहीं रह गई हैं.
Here in Kashmir, they have a unique recipe for it.
पुराने शास्त्रों में भी लिखा है और पुराने ट्रेडिशनली जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में इसी तरह से शिलाजीत बनाते हैं कि उसमें थोड़ा सा गौमूत्र, थोड़ा सा देसी घी, थोड़ा सा गंगा जल और थोड़ा सा शहद डालते हैं.
The remaining mixture gets sticky as it hardens, forming an edible shilajit paste. Research in shilajit is limited, but Ayurvedic experts say that it is rich in metallic compounds, minerals, and nutrients. And it's especially effective for treating infertility.
They did find that the sperm count increased. They also saw an increase in testosterone levels, as well as things like energy, muscle growth, not just in men, but also in women.
It also contains fulvic acid, which is said to boost immunity and reduce inflammation.
I ain't gonna lie, part of me wants to say they're full of it. I feel like just a part of me be like, man, they'll tell us anything, and we'll believe them, and we'll take it. And we'll believe in it so much that our mind will probably produce what we were lacking, and it wasn't this stuff. I don't know. Just a part of me thinks that way.
इसको खाने से 10-15 दिन के बाद लोगों को आराम आता है.
And some studies show that shilajit could help treat cognitive disorders.
With Alzheimer's, it's been shown to decrease the accumulation of the tau protein. And the tau protein is the protein that accumulates increased plaques in the brain and leads to Alzheimer's.
Like most dietary supplements, shilajit is not regulated by the FDA. And there are tons of fake products on the market. So Aditya Sumbriya ensures that his products are the real thing by going along with Manohar on the hunt.
Scarcity है इसकी, बहुत रेयर है, बहुत डिफिकल्ट है इसको ढूंढना, तो उसकी वजह से मतलब मैक्सिमम लोगों को ओरिजिनल चीज़ नहीं मिल पाती है.
The fakes usually come in powder form and may be adulterated with coal and fertilizers. Others contain a mineral wax called azocarite, which looks like shilajit but has no medicinal value. The most potent kind of shilajit is said to contain traces of gold. But it's very rare and expensive, selling for about $60 for just 2.5 teaspoons. The overall market for infertility supplements like shilajit is also booming. It's expected to reach $3 million by 2030. Still, some places like Whole Foods have banned shilajit altogether.
It's like from the earth, the risk of it having the heavy metals or the mycotoxins may be greater than other herbs, and perhaps there were some, adverse effects when they weren't purified properly.
That's why experts say it's best to check the product's authenticity by asking for a certificate of analysis.
And usually this document is a simple document. It's just what they've done to make sure that what you are purchasing is what it is, in fact. And the second piece of it is also just looking at what testing have they done.
Manohar's wife fears for him every time he goes on these hikes.
उधर बाहरी में देखते हैं, थोड़ी मिलती है मदद, हो खेती बाड़ी बस, और क्या है इधर पेट भरने के लिए.
Farming is impossible during the harsh winters, so the extra income from shilajit really helps them get by.
पता नहीं पापा कैसे चलते हैं, लेकिन हाँ इतना पता है पापा रिस्क में ये वो उठा लेते हैं क्योंकि हमें.
Say he don't know why his dad does this. I know why your dad does this, bro. You'll know one day too when you get probably super old. You'll learn.
स्कूल मतलब फीस ये वो सब कुछ है तो उन्हें करना ही होता है.
Shilajit is part of the family's daily diet too. Manohar boils milk and adds it in.
एक बार मेरा ये फ्रैक्चर हो गया था पाँव, उस टाइम पर मैंने कुछ 100 ग्राम खाया था. मैक्सिमम मेरे ख्याल में कोई 50% के से फर्क हुआ, नहीं तो मुझे 60 के लाठी के सहारे चलना पड़ता था.
For him, using shilajit is a tradition that goes back generations.
पहले मैंने अपने दादाजी से सुना था, वो तकरीबन छोटा था मैं, वो सटोरी लगा देते ऐसे ऐसे पहाड़ी में शिलाजीत होता.
Now, he's happy to say he's continuing that legacy.